Good evening, ladies. We've decided to divide this evening in 3 parts. Part 1, I will speak totally off the cuff, just, what shall I say, telling you about my life up till we married, and I'm married, and what we did with our years. And then when it comes to my husband's, Zecher Livrocha's, illness, Susan is highly, highly capable. She is taking over the whole of that period of his life. After that, time permitting, we hope to be able to open for questions or for reminiscences, to tell us anything which you have to tell that happened to you. Now, I was born in Stamford Hill, in the middle of the chopping pot, as you call it. I was the youngest of 9 children, and my father passed away, was Nifta, when I was just 2 years old. My birthday is the end of June, and he died in July, just 2 years old. Before he passed away, he called his 6 daughters, the sons separate, into the room, and he gave them a bracha. And the bracha was, Hatzne lo leches im Hashem Elokecha, that you should be able to go modestly with God your God. Modestly did not mean in any way just clothes, nothing like it. Modestly is humble, not showing off, doing mitzvahs, kind, good. It all comes under Hatzne, to be very, very modest in the eyes of God. When we came out, I of course was too young to know what was going on. The older ones were asked, what did Daddy say? And they were told that Hatzne lo leches im Hashem Elokecha. So my mother banged and said, that's fine. That's the motto for this house, and that's what's going to be. And she said it in the strictest of tones. Right through the years of my youth, she was very, very, very strict. But I want you to know that we never knew it. We didn't realise that she was being strict. We thought that's the way parents are. And with the respect that we had in those days for our parents, they could say what they like and we would agree. It didn't make any difference. And the motto of the house was Hatzne, we should be modest in the eyes of Hashem. The boys in the house were treated very differently to the girls. And I had a chip on my shoulder about it. The boys were not allowed to clear up, not allowed to do anything. My mother said the boys were born for Torah learning, right? The boys learned Torah, and they loved learning, absolutely loved it. And that love went over to the girls as well. They absolutely... Moshe, my brother, one of them, was a naughty boy. He ran away from Battersea Grammar School because he wanted to go to yeshiva. And my mother got a bill of £5 from the government for, what's it called when they're dead? Truant. She never got over it. Never got over it. £5 because he ran away from school. He got such a hacking in the copper rhyme. Dov, my older brother, won the biggest scholarship which Churchill gave out for mathematics. He was top in the whole of England, and he was given in a place in a school where he would be trained to be a professor. But he wouldn't go. He wanted to sit and learn. So you understand that learning was in the blood of the family. When it came to shidduchim, for me, I said that I wanted to marry somebody who was in learning, but I wanted somebody who was worldly. I want somebody with good midot, who had good traits of character. I wanted this, I wanted that, I wanted this. Anyway, so my mother told me at the time who was available in the Gateshead Kollel, and I managed to push them off. This one's Hungarian, this one's German,
don't take it personally.
This one's this one's that. I wasn't very interested. So my mother phoned up. There's plenty of room over here. So my mother phoned up my brother Moshe in Israel and said, what do we do with her? She's impossible, that Ruchi. What do we do with her? And my brother sent back a message, a telegram. don't go fishing in foreign waters. Home-cured fish are the best fish. So my mother said, it's England and it's got to be England. And she said, why not try Ehrentreu? Why not? You can say no, try it. And so Ehrentreu it was. I happen to know, although he says it was the other round, that when we were little, we were living in the same place and there was ice on the water. And I happen to know that he slipped and fell in the water, and I happen to know that I saved his life. And he kept saying, it's the other way round, the other way round, I saved you. He said, I saved you then and I've saved you ever since. So that was a thing of argument, but never mind. I was going to meet Ehrentreu, Chanot Ehrentreu, that was decided. Question was where, and it was decided it was to take place at my sister Sarah, Margulis and Maya in Crickerwood. There's not too many people there who would see us. That would, they don't have to stand. Yeah, come over here.
Don't feel self-conscious, we're not looking.
They thought nobody.
The lower seats at the back here.
Nobody would see us. It's in Crickerwood, it's wonderful. I went there, I sat in their dining room. My brother-in-law, Maya Margulis, who's Hasidish, he decided he wanted to know what was going on, so he decided he's going to bring in a plate of cake. I hadn't been in 10 minutes, and I was just talking to him before somebody comes in and dumps a plate of cake on the table, looks at us, smiles, goes into the kitchen to my mother and says, "Schwigger, man can brechen on the plate, it's finished, it's finished." That was 10 minutes after I met him. My mother spoke to me afterwards and she said, "Lovely, what do you think?" I said, "It's very good, fine, I like." She said, 2 weeks break. She would not let it go on unless it's too much to come out here. You want it. 2 weeks break and then you meet again. 2 weeks later, we met again. And then it went very quickly. I went back to my mother and I said, "I asked you for a lot of things as a chosen. I asked you for a lot of things. I got everything I wanted and everything more. I'm very, very happy." So she was very, very delighted. Baruch Hashem for that. We've got her settled now. Anyway, we got married 9 months later. I had to wait for my sister, who was a colour, and my mother said, "Lo kamin hogenu litenes hatziro lifnei habchiro." The younger one can't get married before the older one. So the older one got married first. And then I got married. Mrs. Hochhäuser, who was a nice neighbour and a very good friend of my mother, said to me, "You waited 9 months. You waited 9 months for the wedding, and now you're going to wait 9 months for the other way round, for the baby to come." 8.5 months later, Oshi was born. It was a good job we hadn't met each other before the chasna. It was 8 months actually, to be honest. I just ashamed to say it. Anyway, Oshi was born. 10.5 months later, she appeared on the horizon, too quick for the doctor to put his gloves on. 21 months later, I had twins.
Oh my goodness.
The oldest child was 2. We went to live in Gateshead as soon as we got married, and with 4 children just under the age of 2, just 2, it needed talking over. We went in a room and discussed it, and I said to my husband, "I want you to get on with your career." He was determined and he had the ability to learn and to do. "You stay on, I'll take a teaching job, but I cannot leave 4 children with anybody else but you. You have breakfast time 9 till 10, The school was in the road that we lived, and 1:30 to 3 is your lunchtime. You watch the children in. I would teach 2.5 hours a day, breakfast and lunchtime. Well, that goes for a wonderful marriage. We hardly saw each other. Breakfast, he wasn't there. Dinner wasn't there. Evening, it was not easy. But on the other hand, with that money, I managed to get a SEM girl who came to help me put the kids to bed. I had help in the morning. Baruch Hashem, things worked. We stayed for 7 years in Gateshead. My husband had a lot of ability. You could see it then. And he was ready with life to get on with it. And when, after 7 years in Gateshead, Rabbi Dayan from Sunderland came and offered him to open what he called a Centre for Advanced Rabbinics in Sunderland, he was thinking about it, but already all over people had something to say. You can't do it. It's not right. How can you open 11 miles away from Gateshead? How are they going to make money? It's the same people you're collecting from. But without being deterred, he phoned up his father, who lived in Manchester, and said, "What do you think about it?" And his father said, "Don't listen to people. Jump into it, and God will help." And that's exactly what he did. He jumped into it. My husband gave a share, and he gave this share, I think it was in Toronto. I know I was present. And the share was on ability and responsibility. And in that share, he said, if you have ability, naturally you have more responsibility. But if you haven't got ability and you take responsibility, then Hashem will give you the ability. And then you will be able to have stability in whatever you do. And he took the job in Sunderland. It was not an easy task, let me tell you. Half the boys were from Morocco. They had no parents. You had to make the money. And I remember them saying, the Dayan is a very good dentist. He makes painless extractions. He managed to get all the money for the Sunderland Koiva. In Gateshead and in Sunderland, they called him a coal boy. He could do anything that his hands touched. He was a moil, he was a balkoira, he was he blew the shofar, anything, you name it, he could do it. He could do it. But in Sunderland, he had to take on new jobs. We made the weddings of the people there, the Sheva Brachas. You had to give them encouragement. I'm not a doula, but I was at the birth of a few of them, present to give, there were no mothers, no family, you had to give them encouragement. After 18 years, he was approached to go to Manchester. And I think by then he was desperate for change. He wanted something else. When he decided to take on Manchester, he first wanted to be a Dayan and get Shimush. So he decided to go to Rebetzin. And he left me for 4 months, with my consent, to go to Ehrentreu and to live in Yerushalayim and learn all day. Not learn, but do Shimush with her at Rebetzin. And it was amazing. It was excellent, and it helped him through his future life. When he came back, he showed his appreciation to me, and he said, "What can I buy you?" I said, "A Kenwood." And I got my Kenwood. And that was when he came back from Ehrentreu. So we then moved to Manchester. Manchester was again not an easy parsha. Everything you did was recorded in the Jewish Telegraph. Half of it was lies. It wasn't even true. They said the Ehrentreux are enjoying themselves in Barbados. In my life, I've never been in Barbados. It was very, very difficult. But I must say, he stood his ground in whatever he believed in. He did not give in. And it was not easy. You know, one of the things you know about, it was in all the press, when the Pope came to Manchester. My husband had nothing against visiting the Pope or seeing the Pope, But he did have against, heading the delegation, just the two of them, Rabbi Silverman of the Reform and Dayan Ehrentreu of the... He refused, and they wouldn't accept it. So he accordingly said, come on, we're off to Israel, and we went to Eretz Yisrael over Shavuos. First headline in big writing on the paper in Manchester, not Dayan, but Ehrentreu snubs the Pope. Wherever they could get a word in, he didn't care. The more he grew and he flourished in his work. And at the end, everybody without exception, it didn't matter which walk of life, they all appreciated him. I must tell you that my husband was very human in the sense that he loved sport, loved it. Even when he was ill, he was watching Wimbledon and Oval, and he enjoyed sport, he loved doing sport, and he could talk to people of every walk of life, didn't matter who it was, on their level. He could speak on their level, he was humble, and he could talk words that they understood and appreciated, always with a twinkle in his eye. That was Manchester. We lasted exactly 5 years before the late Rabbi Yakobovitz came to sorry if it's a thing, I don't know the whole name, came to Manchester and asked us to come to London. They said there's scope, there's so much to do, there are lots of issues at the moment that need discussing. For me, everything is a move. A man, I don't care what anybody says, it's not the same. They go to shul 3 times a day, they learn this, they meet people. For me, everything was a move. The first Friday night, we hadn't even made the decision. Friday night, there's a knock at the door. In Manchester, Amelie Yakobovitz arrived. She knocked at the door, and I said yes, and she found it. I've come to welcome you to London. I hadn't even decided to come yet, but after that, I felt truly welcome, and we decided to move to London. We bought the house in Highfield Gardens, and at that time, I thought nothing can ever cost more money than £119,000 for a house. It can't get more than that, it can't. We sold a house for 50 and bought one for 119, it can't be more than that. Little did I know. Anyway, Shlomi, my son Oliver Sholem, who was Nifta, was getting married the week that we moved. Our house was already sold. We had wonderful, wonderful neighbour, Dahlia Pine. She moved out of her house and moved into her mother-in-law for Shabbos. She absolutely insisted so that we could make the Ofruf in her house, the Kiddush. And so it was. And we left Manchester, we came to London. I think we've been here, I haven't counted, nearly 40 years now. Things have had ups, things have had down, but my husband has been there and on the helm. He never neglected us or his children, the home. He looked after them all. He played with the kids when they were little under the table. I must tell you how normal he was, that one day a family came and were playing here, an English family, and the children were playing and they went under the couch. And they brought out a whole pack of the Times. Oh, they were shocked. The Dayan reads the Times. So I said, yes, we have a newspaper every day delivering the Times. They couldn't believe that the Dayan, it was to them, read the Times? I said, yes, he wants to know what's going on in the world. He has to know. In order to get on with people all over the world, he has to know what's going on in the world. And he really did. He was extremely interested in medical subjects, so much so that there's no way he wouldn't have been a doctor if he wasn't what he was. He loved medicine. He loved all modern shilas, and he looked into them, and and he hafochbova, it's all in the Torah. You just have to know how to be able to explain them. In London, the years passed by, the children grew up, the children all got married, even Judy got married, the youngest got married in London, and Baruch Hashem, we lived a very, very happy years here. In no small measure due to our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful community, all of you who have helped us in one way or another, whether as walkers, whether as phone calls, whether as coming. Susan will have her say what she wants to say about it, but I must say that all of you have been, as my husband would say, terrific, absolutely terrific. I've had questions asked from me. So now what? Now what? I answer back, and I say it with all sincerity. If I would complain about anything, then it's a lack of hakoros hatov, a lack of gratitude. I have had so much, 67, the most happy years. I have had I have, Baruch Hashem, wonderful children who care and who are all really very, very, very close to each other and to me. I have so many blessings in life, a home, support, everything. At no time can I complain. I was last week in Yerushalayim and I was sitting next to a Rebetzin. Her name is Rebetzin Kopshitz. And she said to me, when I lost my husband, I was totally devastated, but totally devastated. But one of the Gedolim said to me, you say every day in the morning, Yosom ba'almono yodid, an orphan and a widow you support. So she said, the Godol, I said, I'm not sure if it was the Rebbe Eliashiv or not, the Godol said, Ye'odeid is od yad, another hand. God will give you another hand to help you to continue. And in Mitzvah Hashem, I look forward to continue, as we did before, walking in the park in the morning and hearing from you and continuing to continue the legacy which my husband so much wants. To all of you, a great big thank you.